Welcome, patrons. I've put this off for a while, so I think it's time we talk about probably the second most talked about elven goddess in the series, the Lady of the Hunt, Andruil. The myth. For some reason, Andruil has a ton of titles associated with her. The Huntress, Lady of the Hunt, Mother of the Hare, Sister of the Moon, Lady of Fortune. Some of these are probably because of what she's associated with as a goddess, but Sister of the Moon and Lady of the Fortune are both not explained well. Sister of the Moon is particularly confusing, as in many legends she is the daughter of Elgar'nan and Mythal, the latter of which is the goddess of the moon, making Andruil the daughter of the moon rather than the sister. While there's another legend of Andruil that talks about her being a child of the earth, it would make her, in the logic of the Dalish legends, sister to Elgar'nan and not Mythal. But regardless of her parentage, almost every story of her has her sister be Soleil's. As children, Andruil was said to have frolicked in the woods while Soleil stayed home and did art or something. Andruil and GHILAN'NAIN also have a unique connection compared to the other gods of the elven pantheon. I won't go into the whole myth of GHILAN'NAIN, but in short, she used to be a mortal elven woman who was devoted to the worship of Andruil. When she was maimed and left for dead in the forest, she prayed to Andruil for help, who in turn sent hairs to chew through her bindings and turned her into the first Hala so that she may escape and survive. There's another tale of Andruil where Dirthaman gave many secrets to different animals in the forest, one of them foxes, who traded the secret to Andruil for wings. Now, while it doesn't say so in the Codex, I do want to believe that this means she made bats, but that's just a theory. I actually have nothing on that. Another legend, which I'm not sure how widespread this is to the Dalish, as it was said by a man we assume to be an ancient elf on the side of Fen'Harel rather than the Dalish, but he was pretending to be Dalish and told it to Briala, so I don't know. Anyway, here's that story. In the story, Fen'Harel hunted the Hala without her blessing and angered Andruil. So she tied him to a tree and declared that he would serve her in bed for a year and a day as payback. One of the Forgotten Ones, Anaris, then comes in wanting to kill Fen'Harel, so the two dueled for his fate. During their battle, Fen'Harel called out that Andruil had a weak point above her hips due to the armor she was wearing, and then distracted Anaris so that Andruil could attack him with the golden arrow. He was then able to get away. Now, symbols of Andruil are the hawk and hare, along with an owl who is believed to be her messenger. The Dalish believe that Andruil guides them, like where they should hunt, where they should settle, and where they should raise their Hala. She would then send an owl as a messenger, and it would show the people the way to the Blessed Lands. To the Dalish, Andruil seems to be a popular goddess, and is said to have had many worshippers in the ancient times. To the Dalish, she represents their survival. She is heralded as the creator of the Way of the Three Trees, or the Vir Tanadal. This way is a group of 3 rules, all themed on wood, that teaches the Dalish how to survive in the forest properly. The rules vary a bit between the games and other sources, but for the most part are the Vir Asan, Way of the Arrow, be swift and silent, strike true, and do not waver. The Vir Borasan, Way of the Bow, as a sapling bends, so must you, in yielding find resilience, in pliancy find strength. The Vir Adalin, Way of the Wood, receive the gifts of the hunt with mindfulness. Now, the DA RPG also lists this rule as, together we are stronger than the one, but as this was later rewritten to the previous version by the head writer of the series in the short story 3 Trees to Midnight, I would take that version as gospel. Along with teaching them these rules, the Dalish believe that she taught them how to respect the animals in their hunt. Allies of Dalish clans were often given a belt engraved and named after Andruil and enchanted by the clan's keepers. There is also the constellation of Fervenial, which to most of Thedas represents an oak and is the representation of nature in Armenian lore, but some scholars believe that it's actually based on the Vir Tanadal and dedicated to Andruil. We know that during the time of the Dales, the Dalish built a shrine to Andruil. The place is in ruins as a Dragon Age Inquisition, and around the ruins our Legion nobles built a mansion on top of it, with a carved altar still standing in the Great Hall. The reality. The reality of Andruil, much like the other elven gods, seems a lot darker than her myths. Ancient songs and poems devoted to her in the game depict her as still a hunter. It's said that GHILAN'NAIN created animals and Andruil hunted them after they grew too numerous. After a year on the hunt, she approached GHILAN'NAIN with a deal. She would become a god if she destroyed her creations as they were getting too dangerous for the people. She agreed, killing all but a handful, including some monsters of the air that she presented to Andruil as a gift. What these monsters were are unknown. She is also said to have hunted people. Known as the goddess's sacrifice, she was begged by her worshippers that they not be her prey. Now, in her stories, while she does indeed hunt great beasts, there also seems to be hints that she hunted the other Evaneris as well. In the Darvarite and Trespasser, there is a puzzle where you have to light specific lights in order according to a small riddle. The riddle is, one sees the hunter, one flees from it, one hunts it in turn, one outwits them all. The lights each are associated with the Evanuris, with the final answer being Falandin sees the hunter, GHILAN'NAIN flees from it all, Mythal hunting them in return, and Fen'Harel outwitting them all. From assumption, we can take the hunter to mean Andruil. During the quest Scattered Glyphs, you are also tasked to find various symbols across the Exalted Plains. One of these glyphs is of a hare and hawk chasing the sun. As Elgrinon is the elven god of the sun, this could be noting that the two had a feud at some point, which is not unusual as seen in the Vir'Thara. Along with her hunts, perhaps feuds, I don't know, with the other Evanuris, there is one codex that talks about the consequences of one of these hunts. It's pretty dense codex, so I'm just gonna read it in full to you, and we'll talk about it later in the video. One day Andruil grew tired of hunting mortal men and beasts. She began stalking the Forgotten Ones, wicked things that thrive in the abyss. Yet even a god should not linger there, and each time she entered the void, Andruil suffered longer and longer periods of madness after returning. Andruil put on armor made of the void, and all forgot her true face. She made weapons of darkness and plague ate her lands. She howled things meant to be forgotten, and the other gods became fearful Andruil would hunt them in turn. So Mythal spread rumors of a monstrous creature and took the form of a great serpent, waiting for Andruil at the base of a mountain. When Andruil came, Mythal sprang on the hunter. They fought for 3 days and nights, Andruil slashing deep gouges in the serpent's hide. But Mythal's magic sapped Andruil's strength and stole her knowledge of how to find the void. After this, the great hunter could never make her way back to the abyss, and peace returned. She has a few weapons associated with her in various places in game. Gelderon's Claim Codex, which is one of the Forgotten Ones, notes that they wish her bow would crack. A Song to Slays notes that her breath rivals Andruil's spear. In a codex that can only be read if you drank from the Well of Sorrows, it describes a weapon that she had made. She shook the radiance of the stars, divided them into grains of light, then stored them in a shaft of gold. Andruil, blood and force, save us from the time this weapon is thrown. Your people pray to you. Spare us the moment we become your sacrifice. There is a brief image of an elaborate golden spear glowing with unbearable heat. Then it fades. However, there is actually more to this poem. In the description of the weapon Andruil's gift, it says this: She took the gathering storm, trapped its fury in golden limbs, and sprung it with the screams of the south wind. Andruil, blood and force, your people pray to you. Grant that your eye may not fall upon us. Spare us the moment we become your prey. The theory. Andruil is often talked about because there is a lot of ancient material about her, so we have a lot of ground to cover here. Now, she is popular to fit into fan theories and cast her as the villain, for obvious reasons, but we know well that elven stories, even ancient ones, are prone to propaganda. I think her real role is going to be a bit more nuanced than the fandom generally gives her credit for, but at this point it's honestly hard to say either way. Now, because there is so much, and I kind of want to touch on a bit of it, this is going to be just kind of a vague overview. But I want to focus at least on 3 main theories that I see all the time on Andruil. Lover of GHILAN'NAIN. I talked about this more in the GHILAN'NAIN video, so I won't elaborate much here, but there is a widely accepted fan theory that Andruil and GHILAN'NAIN were lovers. Because I'm a pedantic asshole, I do feel the need to point out that the language between the two puts them in a god-worshipper relationship, minus the Dragon Age RPG that lists GHILAN'NAIN as her beloved, and to be frank, the Dragon Age RPG canon is a bit dubious. But I know this doesn't rule out lovers, although it does paint the relationship as kind of weird, maybe. But as of writing this video, it has yet to be confirmed. So if at some point along the road it becomes not canon, it wasn't the devs walking back what they said. It was this fandom hive mind that had this idea and fell in love with it. Red Lyrium and the Blight. Pretty much based entirely on the Elven God Andruil Codex, it's theorized that Andruil was, if not the first to discover Red Lyrium, the first to bring it to the surface, and suffered a fate similar to Meredith in Dragon Age 2, minus becoming a statue. Other than the symptoms of the blight and blight poisoning matching, the only reason people assume Red Lyrium was in the mix was because we have no idea how you make an armor out of blight. However, it's not impossible, as the writers could pull anything out. I also want to say that it could be possible that she just found regular lyrium, as raw lyrium saps your memory and kind of makes you go cuckoo and is dangerous to mages, which at this time all things were touched by magic. This would then turn the story into how Mythal founded the Lyrium Mining and Processing Center from Dragon Age Inquisition, and perhaps why the moon-headed statue is there, but hold on to Moonhead for a moment. Now, despite how interesting the series is, it pretty much is just all focused on this one codex, and the reading of the meaning to beat the Blight. The Void is connected with the Blight and various other parts of the Dragon Age lore, but not quite in connection to the elves all the time. However, if you see my video on the Void, it's pretty unclear what the Void is to begin with, so it could be literally anything. Titan Hearts and KORTH. One of the odder theories that I think actually holds some water is that Andruil is somehow connected to the Avar and the Titans and KORTH. In short, in the Elven God Andruil Codex, it mentions that Mythal turned into a serpent and waited for Andruil at the base of a mountain. Well, as it turns out, there is another tale of serpents at the base of mountains from the Avar. In the Codex Lake Callan had from Dragon Age Origins, it gives a small tale of KORTH, the mountain father, who fought the serpent Nathramar at the base of Belenos, a mountain that is said to have stood at the center of the world. This battle destroyed the mountain and left Lake Callan in its place. Now, if this is a misremembered tale of the Avar, which does bring the questions of humans and Thedas when they came along, but I have no answers, so we'll be moving right past that one. But this could be about the battle between Mythal and Andruil. Now, remember this association of Andruil and KORTH, and let's head over to the Frostback Mountains Codex, again from Dragon Age Origins. In short, KORTH locks away his heart in a golden cask and hides it so he may not be weak. But he grows cruel. A little bird eventually finds the cask at the urging of the Lady of the Skies and shatters it. KORTH is then reunited with his heart, and Hakon Winter's Breath makes sure he can't ever do that again by blasting some iron and ice into his chest. Keeping this in mind, let's jump to the description of Andruil's weapons. She took light from the stars and put them into a golden shaft. In murals found across Dragon Age Inquisition, and even in the Dreadwolf Rises trailer, there's a strange star/flower shape. Now, I go over more detail of this in the Dreadwolf Rises trailer breakdown, but it could be Andruil got the power of her spear from the heart of a Titan. Now, there isn't a super solid connection on Andruil and KORTH, and we have to assume a lot, but there are some odd similarities. But something to keep in mind is what the Avar gods are. To the Avar, their gods are powerful spirits who can be summoned and bound and reborn over and over again, as per Hakon in the Jaws of Hakon DLC. Maybe KORTH, the spirit, bound itself to a Titan which Andruil killed and then used the power of? Maybe KORTH was just the name of the Titan and not a spirit at all. Maybe Andruil's trapped the spirit of KORTH and used it to kill a Titan. Or maybe it's just all unconnected. Either way, others have gone into way more detail on this and drawing what I personally believe to be more wild and far out there connections, but this is the basics to most of the Andruil KORTH Titan theories. The new mural. I'm almost glad I waited this long to get the video out, as now we have a new popular theory for Andruil, although I assure you this will not age well. See, in the BioWare 25th anniversary book, this image was released, and not long after, the Dragon Age 4 2020 trailer came out with this mural, which we now have a larger image of. Fun facts, and look, it has tentacles, which is really exciting if you see my video on the whole thing, which, for the sake of time, I'm just going to assume you have. Now, in short, because of this spear right here, people have assumed that this moon-headed figure is Andruil. I also have a few people point out to me that her Valislin also makes a similar moon shape on the forehead. Now, as a side note, I've also gotten that the Valislin for Dirthaman, Ghilan'nain, and Falandin also look very similar to the other figure that I've dubbed Beetle, as well as the Valislin for Mythal looking also like the moon-headed figure. But that's unrelated right now, I just kind of wanted to give a small update. Now, as I elaborate more in the breakdown video, there is a connection to this figure and the old gods. And I think that much is pretty solid in my mind, at least. The question now is how related the old gods are to the Evanuris, and at this point we honestly don't have anything solid. As Sola states, there is nothing in the lore that connects his people to the Evanuris, and quite literally, he is correct. Nothing states that. But there is something fishy going on. And that, dear patrons, is all that I have on Andruil. Now, real quick, I want to give a small call out for help. I wanted to do a video on the Dragon Age theme park ride that was at the now sadly closed Hub Zero over at Dubai. I found a lot of information online. You don't need to send me any of the videos you find because I guarantee I've already seen them. But I need some help from you all that have somehow written it. I'm looking for people who have ridden the ride and hopefully remember the story of the movie that played before and during the ride. Is that you, or perhaps even someone you know? Or better yet, do you have footage of the ride or the movies? That would be the golden dream right now. Please let me know. Still have lingering questions, proof that I'm wrong, comments about your own fan theory? Feel free to tweet me at @GilderThon on Twitter or send a PM to user GILAN'NAIN on Reddit. Dress all.